Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi there, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie. Today we are chatting with Kenneth Wortley, author of, catch this title, The Gospel of Secrets, which is a daring, heartfelt memoir of truth, liberation, and love. From the pulpit to personal revelation, Ken shares his journey as a pastor who spent decades preaching faith while silently wrestling with personal identity issues. In this powerful conversation, we engage in a moving dialogue about courage, healing, and living with no secrets to hide. With that, let's bring Ken Wortley on the show. Ken, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thank you. Please call me Ken, because Kenneth, my grandfather used to call me Kenneth when I was in trouble. So, yeah, Ken is
It's
great.
the only time I have Kenneth in the whole, in all of my notes. It's the only time I have Kenneth is just introducing you, because I noticed, you go by Ken.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yes.
And, honestly, you don't look like a Kenneth.
That's true. But Grandpa always would say, Kenneth, come over here. Kenneth, stop doing. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And how do you like that title? It's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? The Gospel of Secrets. The gospel is supposed to be an open door, not a closed door, not a closet. Yeah, I like that. I like that title. I struggled with that title for a long time.
Oh, I love the title because, as we talked on the phone yesterday, and you offered a quick overview into the rationale behind the book, I have to tell you, I'm a very private man, and as a very private man, always with secrets. My entire life has been a life of secrets. I absolutely love the title, so I didn't see it.
Great.
I just saw it just as the truth of secrets, and
Great.
and
the publisher wanted to put a cross on the front of the book, and I kind of went, well, I'm not writing for or against the church, and so, but they went out and they said, we'll make sure that it's not a religious book and people aren't going to, only the Christians are going to buy it, So I went, okay, great. I'm kind of more comfortable with that. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Do you have an idea of what your readership? Do you get a lot of non-Christian readers? Do you know?
I think it's half and half. Most are young people that are reading the book, which is kind of interesting. LGBT is a good chunk of people worldwide, I think. I gave a book to a English-speaking Brazilian friend of mine who I swim with, and he read the first couple chapters. He goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "Your life was so hard, so tough." He goes, "Are you happy now?" And I went, "Gosh, I really didn't mean to have the book be such a downer, but he was just like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever read such a sad story in the first couple chapters." He goes, I'm anxious to leave and go back home and read the rest of it. I hope it ends on a happy note, which is kind of funny.
Well, it's a quick read at 98 pages. It's a quick read.
Yes, it is. It is a very
I love that you wrote a 98-page book. I think it takes huevos to write a book that short. I think all books should be that short.
Yes,
400-page, even 200-page books are too long.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not thinking about writing a new book, but I love the title, The Next Chapter. I like that next chapter kind of talk. That's pretty good.
It's been a while. I've been using it for over a decade now. Okay. I can't believe it that I've been doing it that long.
Wow.
So tell me, Ken, in a nutshell, what is, and I'm not asking what the book is at this, right. I'm just asking, What is the gospel of secrets?
Yeah, you know what?
You know,
I'm going to tell you my story in a nutshell. I was born and raised in Michigan,
okay,
in Saginaw, Michigan, to be
okay,
exact. When I was living in Michigan, General Motors was the king,
right.
was the ticket to everything. Grew up in a small family, my brother, myself, my dad and mom, and we were very religious, a very religious family. Um, Whenever the church was open, we were there. My dad was a deacon, my mom was on the women's stuff, and so ev- everything that was happening in that church, First Baptist Church in Saginaw, Michigan, we were there. All of my extended relatives.
Let me interrupt because I just
Yeah,
want to bring up a point that I know, based on what you told me about your book yesterday, this will strike you. Isn't it interesting that your dad was a deacon and you didn't say your mom was involved in ministry? Your mom was involved in women's ministry.
women's things. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that so typical of the
That
church?
that's how things have changed a lot. I hope things have changed. Um, I went back about 4 years ago, and they were bringing big bulldozers in to bulldoze this church, which was downtown. It was a downtown church. And I took many pictures of my childhood church building being torn down. And it's kind of sad because I think they put it in a parking lot or something, for downtown. Anyways, back to the story. Um, I was a very religious boy, and it
Okay.
was early on with my relatives, my grandfather, my mother, my father, that encouraged, gently encouraged, that I pursue a career in the church, which means become a pastor, go to school. I would be the first to go on to college. Everybody that I knew in graduating high school went on to one of the factories in Michigan and worked and got lots of money. So why would anybody go to college and
Yeah.
try to learn something
Yeah.
new?
Yeah.
So I went to a small liberal arts college in Philadelphia, and I began to entertain that thought about being a pastor, learning how to speak, learning how to be a people person. And that really developed into a people pleaser, really. Um, as I developed,
That's interesting. Not a people person. It started as a people person, but it turned into a people pleaser.
yeah,
Isn't that the truth? That's a great observation, Ken.
yeah, I have a cute little story that I like to tell that when I would visit my aunts and uncles and my grandfather, they would set up little chairs in a row in their living room. And little Kenny Wortley was encouraged to get a Bible and preach to all of my relatives and all those chairs that were set up while my mother and my aunt did their ironing and their wash. And so I learned early to communicate, like Billy Graham, and do a lot of shouting and a lot of hand gestures and a lot of movement. So I began to copy that kind of behavior.
Uh-huh.
I have to tell you honestly, I wasn't attracted to girls. Girls were fun as friends. They
Right.
were they were they were fun to talk to and to become good confidants. I really was beginning to look at an attraction towards boys and men.
At what age?
14, puberty,
Okay.
as I was going through
Okay.
puberty.
Sure.
Um, I knew God didn't create homosexuals. That would be a mistake. So I made sure at all cost that I would suppress and push those kinds of thoughts down, deep down, and not even entertain that I could be homosexual. I'm using the word homosexual on purpose. So as I continued, I knew I was going to be going to seminary, and I knew a good pastor always has a good wife. And so I began to look for a wife, not for romantic reasons, but to be a good pastor. And with the hope that that would kind of curb some of those thoughts that I was beginning to have. We were married in 1972 at First Baptist, of course, and it was a big wedding, and we were off to seminary in Philadelphia.
You were married young.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. In Michigan, you married young. Yeah, you did that back then. We
You weren't even 20.
No, oh yes, I was. I was 20. I was 21. Yeah, I was 21.
21?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Good. So, let's see. I'm trying to go chronological because many people say in the book, I wish you would have added dates. And my publisher says, you don't need to add dates. Just, it's the storyline. It's not the dates. So, yeah. I have a friend that told me psychologically, he goes, I think you suppressed the dates. That's why you didn't add the dates. I'm going, oh my gosh.
Of course, yeah.
Come on,
That's a shrink.
Come on. So I said, I hope you don't want to bill for that advice. Anyways, we graduated and then went to Colorado. That was my first church in Colorado. And we played and we skied, and we didn't have kids until late in life. She was very insistent that we are going to try to plan a family, and I kind of resisted that the whole time.
Okay.
I had kind of a social justice bent to my ministry. Very successful in churches. Went from Colorado to Portland, Oregon, where I pastored a church in Portland, and enjoyed.
What years?
Oh gosh,
Do you remember?
You're like my friend. I don't know.
No, because I was in Portland from 83 to 86.
Oh no, I think because I went from Portland to Walnut Creek, California. I pastored a church in Walnut Creek, which was a misfit because they were very high churched, very white collar. I was kind of more loosey goosey, and they didn't really appreciate my style, so that wasn't a really good fit. We were in Walnut Creek during the earthquake, and that really shook my wife. We had our first child in Portland, Oregon, and moved from Portland to Walnut Creek, and then to Walnut Creek to Spokane, Washington, where when I moved to Spokane, I kind of had this gut feeling that this would be my last church. I just grew weary of hiding, keeping my personal life a secret.
So this had been haunting you all these years.
All these years, yeah. I need to say I wasn't honest with my family. I wasn't honest with my friends. I wasn't honest with my church members. And everybody that I came in contact with, I just kind of kept it to myself. My favorite singer, and you probably might know this guy's name, Ray Boltz. Ray Boltz was a
I don't.
You don't know that?
I don't.
Was a very popular Christian singer, very conservative Christian singer.
Yeah, I didn't follow Christian music, so
that was a long time ago.
I was listening to Pearl Jam.
he finally came to terms with his orientation and announced that he was gay. His wife supported him, and the rest of the Christian community did what they do best and rejected him and sent him lots of hate mail.
And sent him off to counseling for sure.
Of course, and prayed for him. Ray Boltz, early on in his new career, I'll call it his new career, wrote a song that is just my favorite. And this is he wrote my life. He said, "When they said I was a sinner, I was struggling with my youth. And with the hope that God could change me, I believe it was the truth. I spent my whole life trying to be what they said I should. And on the inside, I was dying because I never really could. God knows I tried. God knows all the pain I kept inside. God has seen every tear that I've cried. God knows I tried. I was so good at pretending, just like an actor on the stage. In the end, nobody knew me. Only the roles that I portrayed. I would rather have you hate me knowing who I really am than to try to make you love me being something that I can't." Wow. Ray Boltz.
That's a great line. That is
great stuff by Ray Boltz. Yeah, he's gone on. He did get married. They live in Florida somewhere. And I wrote to Ray Boltz and said, I quote your song all the time, but he never wrote back to me and said, "Oh, okay, go for it," or "Don't go for it." So I'm not singing it, so that's okay. So anyways, that kind of begins to talk about the major struggle that I felt, that I was going through. As we went into Spokane, my wife bore another child, so we had 2 sons. And Spokane is a great family community, a lot of sports, a lot of activities, great schools. So our life was filled with running from game to game to game for those guys. The marriage, it just tumbled, and we lived in the same house and hardly communicated.
And your wife had no idea.
I'm gonna skip that question.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't know. I really don't know. I suspect she probably did. As time went on, I lived in the lower portion of the house. We lived in the same house, but we lived separate lives, totally separate lives. And this went on for months, till one day she came down and she says, "Can we talk?" And that was kind of odd because we hadn't talked for a while. And she goes, "How long have you known you were gay?"
So she did know.
Well, I guess.
I guess if she said that and you hadn't talked about it.
And in good fashion, in good religious fashion, I said,
"You lied."
I'm not gay. I'm not gay. I'm glad you find that funny.
I do find it funny because it's so true. It's what we secret holders do.
Yes. So I told her I'm miserable. I told her I'm not sure who I am. And I didn't want to sound stupid. So she says, "Well, whatever you figure out, I think you need to move. I don't think this is a healthy situation." So she kind of initiated the move and the breakup. And then some months later, we went through divorce. And that was the beginning of the first time we as a couple used the word gay with each other. The whole time we were married, almost 30 years, we knew there was an elephant in the room We could smell it, we could touch it, we could feel it, but we never acknowledged it. We never said that, oh wow, there's something wrong with our relationship, you know.
Isn't that kind of the Christian way?
You're more in tune with yes, of course. It is the Christian way, I think. Um, I wasn't one of those domineering male types over my wife. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. But
Yeah.
I we were really good friends, and it was really my hope as we divorced that we would remain good friends. But that just didn't happen.
Didn't
Um,
work out, huh?
didn't work out. So I began to look for psychologists that would help put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I really was a mess. I didn't know how to live alone. I didn't know how to cook, or I didn't know how what pots and pans to have, because all of my life someone took care of me. Someone took care of me. Living alone was, wow, it was a struggle. I mean, it was hard. It was hard. And as sadness came and depression came, I would go to the mall and sit at the mall and wait till um, it got really late, and then I would drive home to my apartment just so I could fall asleep, so I didn't have to be alone in my apartment watching TV, you know. And I was just afraid of just being alone. Psychologist, uh, this is anti-psychology people. All they did was write me prescriptions for narcotics, for drugs. So at one time I was taking,
I'm curious. What kind of drugs would they give you?
well, okay, so
I know a little bit
one,
about med, so I'm curious.
one pill to put me to sleep, one pill to wake me up, one pill when I was feeling overwhelmed at work. I finally went back to school and I quit the church, went back to school and got a master's in education and became a school teacher. So that kept me busy, that kept me going. A lot of different kinds of pills. One pill I can remember was called lorazepam.
Oh
Um,
yeah, of course. Of course,
very,
that
yeah,
yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
very addictive. Uh, it kind of lasted for
Is
like
that
2 or 3.
Valium? Is that what that is? Is that the common street
Well,
name
it
for
kind
it?
of
Is that
helped
Valium?
helped me put to sleep, helped me get to sleep a little bit. It helped
Yeah.
kind of take off the edge a little bit.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. As time went on, I became a zombie. I really wasn't
Oh,
myself.
really?
I really wasn't myself. Um, I went to school and I talked to my school friend, teacher across the hall, and she says, "I heard you're getting a divorce." And I said, "Yeah, I am." She goes, "Well, you can't get a divorce. You need to go back and find a counselor, and maybe come together as a couple." And I said, "Marcy, I think I'm gay." And that was the first time I said it out loud.
That was your first going public. I mean,
Yeah, to her. It was really odd to hear me say that. Um, she went back and sat at her desk and went, I I can't believe it. All this time I've known you and you didn't tell me. And wow, she says, well, I know a lot of gay people and I know, and so I thought, no, I don't want to start dating. Um, I did go to a couple gay bars, but as a Baptist, I didn't even know what to order, what kind of a drink to order. You know, I, I would look over at this gay couple and I'd say, okay, whatever they're having, I'm going to have what they're having. It's kind of pink and it's got an umbrella in it. Yeah, whatever that is. And the guy goes, "Are you sure?" And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, do you want any blah 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 blah?" And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Just give me what they're having. Looks good. It's fruity. It's yeah yeah." So that was a I knew as a Baptist, a bar isn't going to meet any of my needs. It's just going to frustrate me more. So time went on. Um, I began to mellow out as I found a counselor who was able to listen. And she said, I'm not here to write prescriptions. I'm just here to listen. And in the time together, I want to deconstruct your thinking and perhaps your faith and help you reconstruct a new faith, uh, some new thinking. So I said, well,
Wow.
the major part is dealing with the Bible. Bible. I don't know how to deal with the Bible. I know God made a mistake by making a homosexual. So how do I deal with that? And she goes, we have to help you rethink that, thinking about being a mistake. Do you see homosexuality as a choice? I had to think about that for a long time. And now I realize that it's not a choice. Not
You don't get a
anymore.
vote. That's not
Not
anything you get a vote on.
You don't get to vote on your sexual orientation, not any more than you do in your blue eyes. In Brazil, they say, "Oh my God, we love your blue eyes. We love your blue eyes. Where did you get your blue eyes?" And I said, "Well, I got them from God. I believe that God created me the way I am." And they went, wow, why can't God create Brazilians with blue eyes?" And I went, okay, well, anyways, that's the way it goes. So we began to reconstruct. Just last month, I had read an article about the Revised Standard Version in 1946. A group of people, I don't know if they were a committee or a board or whatever they were, of theologians, inserted the word in the Corinthian passage. They inserted the word homosexual.
What was the word used before that?
It's a Greek word, and
Yeah.
it's apparently the Greek word could be translated sexual desires, sexual practices. It's a variety of meaning, but they inserted homosexuality. And from 1946 to
as a sin, probably.
As a sin. And it went until 1973 before they changed it back. And I thought, as I read this article, I thought, what? That's so unfair. That's the kind of Bible I grew up with. No wonder my relatives, and no wonder the people in the church believe homosexual is a sin. With that kind of language that was used in the main copy or version of the Bible in the United States and around the world, the Revised Standard Version. All the versions come out of that version at all. So I think about reconstructing a faith, thinking about a God that could create a homosexual. Maybe not as a mistake, but in purpose. In the book, I'm talking too much, Charlie. In the book,
no, you're not. I'm really interested.
Okay.
So this
in
is
the book.
So you're doing okay, Ken.
I detail telling some key people. One was my mother. My mother was in her early 90s. She lived in Spokane with me. She was totally upset that I was getting a divorce. And so her main goal was to find a counselor, to find a pastor, to find somebody to help put her son and her favorite daughter-in-law back together.
Yeah.
And she goes, my boys never give up, and I don't want you to give up. I want you to fight for this marriage. I didn't know what to do. And so I kept that.
But you didn't tell her you were gay.
I kept that a secret from her for a long time. She came shopping one day, and I must have been tired, and she goes, okay, I found a card of a pastor friend of mine who's going to talk to you and your wife and get you back together. And I said, Mom, you have to stop. I'm a homosexual. And she looked at me in the middle of the store, and she said, when did this begin? And I kind of
40 years ago,
I kind of
like
shook my
30
head.
years
I
ago.
kind of shook my head, and I thought, yeah, okay, this was the way I thought it was going to go. And I said, Mom, I think maybe you gave birth to a homosexual, which was the wrong thing to say.
To a
Yeah,
conservative Baptist?
yeah,
Yeah.
she didn't appreciate that comment. Anyways, all of the relationship kind of went silent for a couple weeks, and I received a phone call from her care center, and they said she fell out of bed and broke her hip. And I went to the hospital and I held her hand, and the doctor said, "We're going to replace the hip." And I said, "Gee, she's kind of old." So she went through the surgery fine. She did great. She was in recovery. She was at physical therapy, and one day she told me, she says, I can't, I can't be here with you in Spokane anymore. I can't watch you suffer. I can't help you in any way. I'm thinking of moving back to Michigan with your brother. I'm going to move back in with your brother." So I helped get her on an airplane and flew her back to Michigan. And when she got involved with my brother and they got her nice and settled, she passed away in a month. So, of course, my brother and his family all blame me for killing my mom because I told her that I was gay. My brother says, "You were effing gay. Why did you tell her you're effing gay?" And I went, "Oh my gosh." Anyways, so that was the one person I did. That whole time, I lived the title of my favorite book called "The Life of Unlearning." It's an Australian pastor who wrote a book, "The Life of Unlearning." I just love the title. I just love the title. It happens to
Yeah.
be that it's the same kind of material that I've been talking about. He
Yeah,
was
well,
there.
that's John of the Cross
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. The
You know,
life.
that's the medieval mystics.
Yeah,
That was what they talked about all the time.
yeah. So that's what I did. Spent the rest of my adult life learning to unlearn new behaviors, learning not to lie. Every time my mouth opened, not to hide or to tell a secret.
Yeah, let's make a distinction there. It's, I know we like to call it lying. But it wasn't lying, it was hiding. And so you had to create a way to stay hidden because the pain of people knowing the truth would be felt to you would be unbearable.
Yeah. Okay. 2 months ago, I did a podcast it's an LGBT podcast, and we got off on this subject. The whole hour was about lying. And the guy said, "Wait a minute. Don't all gay guys lie? I mean, what is it about you that wants to tell the truth?" He goes, "We were born liars." And I went, "Wow, I don't know how to answer this. I never thought about it." Yeah, he goes, "We're protecting our loved ones. We're protecting ourselves. When we're at the grocery store, we tell the small lie to somebody. We don't tell the truth. Our whole lifestyle is not telling the truth." And I don't know, there's something sad about that. For me, there's something sad about that. He says, "We're good liars." And I went, I don't know. I still am kind of rethinking those words of what they
Yeah, I they don't, and I have to think more on it, but they don't ring a bell with me as much as hiding. And so with hiding, there is not lying as much as there is partial truth. And
Oh,
so,
you are so kind. You are so kind.
but
Partial
it is
truth.
true. No, it's truth. It's that you're not telling the whole truth, but you're telling what those people can take and what they need to know, and what business is it of theirs? Because many people, it's just none of their business.
Yeah. I went to the gym teacher in Spokane, Washington, and I told him, you know, he's African American, and I told him, I'm gay. And he said to me, well, now you know what black folk go through. And I went, what? I, I don't understand. He goes, of course you don't understand because you're white. He goes, it's hard. It's hard being African American in our white culture, in our white world. And I thought, he goes, do you get it? It's hard being gay in a dominant straight world. I had to think about that for a while. I had to think about that one for a while. Interesting.
I think that was great wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Great
Tell me,
guy.
you know what? I want to kind of shift gears a little
Okay.
bit, and I want to talk about what you were going through during your marriage, before and after, before you came out. You know, I really can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine, I just can't get there, but I can imagine the pain that's involved with that.
Yeah.
You know, the pain of hiding, the pain of you can't disclose who you are.
Yeah.
That's got to be tremendously difficult, Ken.
Yeah. Very, very stressful, very lonely. Uh, Early on, I knew that this would be the life that I would live for the rest of my life, just being lonely, hiding, developing partial truths uh, with my friends and my family.
Right.
It did shock the small town of Spokane. Um, it did kind of go around the school district. My son told me, Dad, don't don't come to my basketball games because there's some talk about a gay teacher, a gay middle school teacher that just came out and is getting a divorce, and kind of my friends know that might be your dad. So yeah, it's
Really?
painful, painful. I just had open heart surgery a year ago here in João Pessoa, Brazil. And
Okay.
the surgeon, top notch surgeon, speaks totally fluent English. Said to me, are you a smoker? And I went, no. Do you drink a lot? And I went, no. He goes, I opened your chest and I looked in and he says, I don't know if I'm imagining, but there's disease, there's this. And I began to think about what my body took for me to suppress and to keep it secret and to be a hider and to tell partial truths all my life. And so the major organ that pumps life kind of reflects that. And he says, we fixed it. You're a new man. You probably got another 20 couple more years to go. You're looking good. We did it great. But he said, you had some major disease there. That's equivalent to like drinkers or smokers or
Really?
people that
I've
have
never heard that. That
people
stress
that have
does that.
hypertension, that people that have. And I went, yeah, that's probably me. Psychologically, that my body took it all in. Yeah, I like Ray Paul said, I was good at portraying those roles.
Well, that became your identity. It
Yeah.
wasn't just it became, you were portraying, but that became your identity, did it
Yes.
not? That was who Ken Wortley is. Ken Wortley is this person.
Yes. Very
So
much.
tell me, what is it like? What is when you finally came out and you went through all of, I wrote something that I wanted to ask as a question, but I just want to read it because I think it's really where I'm trying to get to. And then I put, in our culture today, people are inclined to condemn, which is odd given all the secrets each of us holds so close to the vest. All of us have secrets. And, I mean, big and small, whatever, but all of us have things we don't want other people to know about
Right.
us. And so if we're not careful, we live in this world of hiding.
Yes.
And what was it like to find freedom where you could be the Ken Wortley you were born to be?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to gently correct you
Please do.
about coming out. Um, my the LGBT podcast and people that have read the book have said you didn't have the courage to come out, and that's true. In a way, that's true. It was really my wife that outed me, is what they say, outed me. I didn't have the
Okay.
courage. I didn't have the personal courage to say, I'm gay. By the way,
You
I'm
did
gay.
what you did with the colleague at school, though.
Yeah, I did. Finally, I got the courage and the strength to do that. Yeah, that was really important. I think about where I'm at now with my partner, and we've been married close to 10 years now.
Okay.
And he wrote to me and said, "When the right person enters your life, it's not just love; it's the beginning of transformation.
Hmm.
They don't bring confusion or chaos; they bring clarity and calmness. They don't focus on your past; they see the strength in your scars. They inspire you to rise, to heal, and to grow into the person you were meant to be. It's not
Is
just
he
a
a poet?
relation. No, yeah. It's not just a relationship, it's a partnership in becoming your best self. I like that. Those are good words. Those are good words.
So
He
what is
wrote it.
that? How do you describe the difference between what you were and what you are now?
Oh
How
my
do you
goodness.
just?
Totally different.
Yeah,
Um,
you seem like such a contented human being.
I am totally from that therapist in Spokane, Washington, and I wish I could remember her name. I want to go back to talk to her, but she asked me to begin to write things down, and I said, "Oh no, I'm a public speaker. I don't write things down." And there was a lot of resistance. I really would like you to begin to journal, and that's kind of like I don't know. I just didn't. I just treated it as n- not a real good suggestion. But I began to journal. I began to write down feelings, people that I met, things that I saw today, and I began a new awareness of life around me, which was kind of cool. That is the soil of this book. Um, my partner says, "Why don't you write a book? People are always saying, 'Wow, Ken's story is so interesting. Why don't you write a book and let people hear it and see it and read it together?'" And so that's how I began to write this book, The Gospel of Secrets, through all of those journals. When we moved from Spokane, there was about 20 of these journals that I packed in a box. And it was my intention on the first time we got to New Year's Eve that I would have a big bonfire and just kind of burn those as a symbol of, okay, now I'm moving on. But I used those journals to write this book.
Oh,
Yeah, I use them a lot. Um, I still have them in a box, and they really tell the whole story of where I was and where I'm come from. Um,
I'm
yeah,
I'm a
there,
huge
there, there,
advocate of journal writing.
there,
Huge. I've
there's
been writing journals for well
there,
over a decade,
there is
and
a
so I get
huge
it.
difference right now of who I am and the kind of freedom and the kind of peace that I have about my life. Um, the last two pages of my book talk about how I live my life now. And my publisher changed the words because I said, my last 10 commandments. And he goes, I don't like the word commandments. Sounds like you're back to being a preacher again. Can you change it to some final thoughts? And I went, I don't care. Change it to final thoughts. Here they are. Here's how I live my life now. And some of them I do pretty good, and some of them I'm kind of growing. First one is find peace in something bigger than you. I didn't say anything about God. I just said find peace in something bigger than you. I really do mean some belief in divinity.
Some kind of source or divine.
Yeah, I do go to the ocean. I live 2 blocks from the ocean. I can see it as I'm speaking to you. I go to the ocean and I put my wonderful footprints on the sand, hot sand. I jump into the ocean that's mightier than me, bigger than me. It reminds me that I'm not so big. But this ocean, they tell me I could go right out there in a boat and touch the continent of Africa. I kind of believe that, but it's mighty. The ocean's huge. I jump in the water and it pushes me around like I'm a paper cup. The smallness of who I am. Living peace, finding peace in something bigger than me. Second, living generously and giving freely of myself. I'm a talented speaker. I'm a talented person who has a lot of history to help a lot of people. So I try to do that. But most importantly, when we go out to eat, leftover food is something that I freely and try to give away to the many homeless people in Brazil. I used to think, well, I got another half a pizza here I could have for lunch tomorrow. No, it really is to give generously. 3, this is going to sound spiritual. Nurture my physical temple, my body. Treat my body as this magnificent vessel. Fuel it with nourishing food and nourishing drink. That doesn't mean I don't drink alcohol, or it doesn't mean I don't go to McDonald's to have some French fries. But at all costs, try to nurture this human body. I'm a swimmer, and so I like to swim in water and feel that. 4, which is Brazil, has taught me, the Brazilian people, they embrace the present moment. They are a people with a culture. I don't know if this is true or not. They don't plan too much. Like Friday. What are we going to do Friday? I don't know. Whenever we can get together, we might do this, we might do that. I like to put things on a calendar and plan things out. They're really trying to teach me. Embrace the present moment. The gift that I'm sitting here in Brazil and you're sitting in California. It's such a gift, this present moment that you and I share right now. It's amazing. It's amazing. Finally, 5, prioritize relationships. Make friends with people. Prioritize your relationship with others. Be a good listener. The whole time I was a pastor, I have the gift to speak. But now I have to unlearn that and try to learn to listen to my friends and to prioritize. The next one is keep moving forward. I know today that what lies behind, in the words of the Apostle Paul, what lies behind, there's just no life for me there. I really need, as the Apostle Paul says, to press on, to move forward. And that's hard for me because sometimes, particularly when I was writing this book, is to relive that past again. I break out in a cold sweat and think. I don't have a relationship with my wife and my sons. I don't get a Father's Day card, or a Christmas card. I don't get a greeting from them. I live.
Oh, I'm so sorry to
I
hear that.
I have a relationship with them on the social media. I see my grandchildren grow up through the postings that they make for their friends. One of my grandson's name is Charlie, so I love the name Charlie. When they named him, his name is Charles Wesley. I says, wow, so we're going to call him Charles. Oh no, we're going to call him Charlie. So it's been a long time in which we've had a conversation. The next one is I awake with gratitude. I have a little sticky note on my mirror, which I shave in front of, and it says, wake up with the word thank you. Make today a word of gratitude. Be thankful for today. Cultivate forgiveness. I have to cultivate forgiveness of people that have hurt me or that I've hurt. And then finally, live authentically with passion. With passion. Be passionate about something. I'm grown
Yeah,
older.
but the authentic part is really key.
Yeah.
That is who you are now, not who you were 40
Right.
years ago.
Right.
Or you were still then, but not who you were calling
Yes.
yourself 40 years
Yes.
ago. So you can live that passionately.
Yes.
That's wonderful. It's about time to wrap up. And those 10
Yes.
points, is that right?
Well, some final thoughts. Yeah, some final thoughts. The publisher didn't want me to use I used the words my 10 commandments, and he didn't like that at all. He thought that was too preachy. So yeah. Thank you, Charlie, for this opportunity. I hope I hear from people that want to be in touch with me. I wish I could give you I'll give you my email. It's createsome, SOME 81 at Gmail. If people want to be in touch with me, I'd love to hear from people and to say, hey, I heard your broadcast.
Create some.
81.
Write that down.
Create some 81 Gmail.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Good.
Ken Wortley, wow, what a wonderful, delightful chat. What a wonderful story, and that has turned out great for you. And I wanted to talk to you about Brazil. I had so many other things I wanted to talk about, but that's for another time.
Yeah, another time.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you.
I'm honored that you would find time to do that.
Been wonderful. Thank you so much, Charlie. Have a good one.
Okay, and I also want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.